Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Maddie here, and today we're going to be talking about the best decks to play in Pokemon Pocket right now. Normally this video would be the best decks for ranked mode, however, ranked mode isn't existing, so today's video is going to be the best decks for, the new Emblem event, which is very easy to complete anyway, or the best decks for online tournaments, which you should go and play in this weekend, namely the Pocket Mads Pocket Tournament number 7. It's a little bit cut off here because of my filters on OBS, but the 7th tournament of our weekly tournament series is tomorrow at noon Eastern time, and it is going to be absolutely incredible. Almost 500 people are already signed up. Likely going to be one of the biggest events that we've ever had. The metagame is really, really fun right now. This event is sponsored by Box.gg. $250 in the prize pool. It's going to be streamed tomorrow on the YouTube as well as on Sunday. It's going to be just a really, really fun time. Come compete against the best players in Pokemon Pocket and see if you can compete and do well. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, no ranked mode, so I don't even know what I'm going to title this video. I got to figure it out. But anyway, these are the best decks right now in Pokemon Pocket. Let's dive right into it, guys. The first one is going to be Blaziken EX. So, here's the thing. I still think that Blaziken is a strong Pokemon. And I think that, it has a lot of potential. What we've seen over the last week or so after the initial sort of surge, when B1 came out, when Mega Rising was first released, Blaziken was the hottest deck, no pun intended. Everybody was playing it, extremely popular and very strong. Everybody knew that this was a very, very strong Pokemon, so everybody counterplayed Blaziken. We saw tons of Oricorio and other decks that were namely just able to kind of deal with Blaziken fairly well. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Blaziken has Rocky Helmet, we have the burn damage, we can play Sabrina. There's a lot of things that we can do in Blaziken to improve that matchup, but even just a couple of turns, kind of slowing the game down. Blaziken is a card in a Pokemon that loves to be like really right in your face on turn 2 or turn 3 and start attacking. If we don't actually really get to move ahead, the board state until turn 3 or turn 4, then that gives Oricorio enough time to like set up with Absol or set up with Magnezone or something else that it likes to set up to kind of finish the game with. And that's not really something that Blaziken can deal with that well. The original version of Blaziken was with Entei, which I do like a lot, but what we're seeing right now is that, Entei, of course, kind of makes the Oricorio matchup just a little bit worse. I mean, namely just because, again, you're giving Oricorio a couple of free turns, which is, really not good when Oricorio is setting up their Pokemon on the back line. So the new version of Blaziken that I think is doing the best and that most people are playing, or I don't know if most people are playing, but has the most, highest average win rate, is going to be this version of Blaziken, which is kind of just a simple, normal, lineup of 2 Torchic, 1 Combusken, 2 Mega Blaziken, and then Cleffa. Gives us a little bit more space here to play things like Lily and Cyrus and Sabrina, Guzma, Rocky Helmet, Citrus Berry, and of course Flame Patch. Cleffa is going to more consistently find our evolution Pokemon. We could even play like 1 copy of May into the deck list, but this version here is just an example of a deck that did well recently at an online tournament. And to me, if I'm playing Mega Blaziken right now, this is probably the version that I'm looking to play. And again, Oricorio will be everywhere. It still is everywhere. And because of Oricorio on the rise, we're actually seeing a ton of Suicune Greninja, which is of course an incredibly powerful water type deck that is going to be, inherently strong into our fire type deck here with Mega Blaziken. So the Cleffa here is really nice, and I think that what we're seeing as time goes on is that a lot of these Mega Pokemon just pair nicely with baby Pokemon, just because it doesn't matter if those baby Pokemon get KO'd, right? They're effectively free prizes, but it doesn't help your opponent to KO 2 baby Pokemon if they have to go through, a 3-prize Mega EX to win the game anyway, and that's what we're doing here. Double Lily to keep Blaziken alive, as well as Citrus Berry can be a very, very tanky Pokemon, 210 HP. I like this deck a lot. I think that Blaziken has a ton of potential, right? And I think that, going into the second week, potentially into the third week, the metagame will kind of wrap all the way around. It'll circle back to Blaziken, and it'll end up being a really well-positioned deck list and will be incredibly strong. So while I think that the counter meta immediately emerged around Blaziken, I think that Blaziken was still and is still a driver in the metagame. So I have to recommend it, and it's going to make our list today. We have 9 different decks. By the way, there are timestamps down in the description below, and if you want to know the energies being ran for all of these decks, then go ahead and check out those timestamps, because that's where I have the energy types listed. Next up, though, is going to be Silvally Oricorio. There's going to be a number of different Oricorio decks in this video. That's mainly just because I think Oricorio has been, inherently buffed with Mega Pokemon. Like, sure, you can play Megas and you can play other Pokemon in your deck that can counter Oricorio, but the important thing is that Mega Pokemon aren't steaming through your entire deck. They're not just absolutely rolling out, the red carpet, because Oricorio is just going to be there, right? So another single prize Pokemon that's just going to slow things down. And oftentimes when you slow things down with these Mega Pokemon, you can either either set up your own Mega Pokemon or set up your own board state that can at least help deal with those Mega Pokemon. Now, this is going to be one of the more interesting versions of Oricorio because it doesn't have like a strong, like sort of back end to the board state that you set up with Oricorio. It's actually a really aggressive Pokemon, which is Silvally. I really like Silvally, and I think the entire idea with Silvally is that it's just a very, very consistent Pokemon, right? It's fast-paced, it's consistent, it's a single-prize Pokemon, which is really nice. 100 damage is 100 damage, and even though, I know we're not two-hit KOing various different Pokemon in the game like Ampharos, Mega Blaziken, or even Altaria with Indeedee on the bench, it's still enough damage for us to, if we're especially going second, which Silvally loves to do, we can get 200-300 damage off pretty consistently, and I think that's a really big upside to Silvally or Oricorio as well to kind of finish off games or lead off the game. It really doesn't matter. I think that Oricorio is such a strong Pokemon right now that it's worth running, and Silvally traditionally has always been a strong partner with Oricorio. One of the most consistently performing decks ever since the beginning of the metagame. I don't know if we're going to see this particular version of Oricorio or, any lightning type deck, really kind of dominate the meta share. I think there's a lot of options right now. We're seeing Magnezone on the rise. I think that Ampharos is a phenomenal pick right now. And, we see Luxray. Luxray did phenomenal as well last week. So there's just so many different lightning type, packages that you can build around Oricorio. I'm not sure that Silvally will really take the cake here, but if we take a look at results over this past week, it has to be mentioned because it has been just incredibly consistent. So I'm not putting Luxray here on this video. I just haven't seen Luxray do a whole lot recently, but there's definitely a case to be made to be playing the Luxray version with Oricorio rather than Silvally, just because of Suicune and Greninja being very common right now. I had to pick one of them. I'm going with Silvally for this particular video. I just see more results with it over the past couple of days, but yeah, very, very consistent, very simple, traditional deck here. One Copycat is really the only new card here, and it's just a phenomenal supporter card, makes the deck that much more consistent. It effectively acts like a Gladion, able to refresh your hand and find that evolution Pokemon. Copycat is going to be phenomenal in really any deck that's playing Stage 1 Pokemon, just because if that basic is on the board, we basically get to look at a bunch of new free cards and, drastically increase the odds of us finding that Silvally, as well as satisfying the supporter condition for the Brave Buddy attack. So Silvally or Oricorio, definitely a strong deck list. Might not be everyone's top choice who's watching this video, but I had to recommend it based off of its consistency and its results. Next up is going to be a new version, or I guess sort of a new Oricorio list that's emerged over the last few days. In fact, a tournament yesterday, Magnezone Oricorio with one copy of Chingling has actually popped up and gone undefeated, the #1 seed after the first day of competition in a recent 300-player tournament. So what I'm expecting at the Pocket Mats tournament tomorrow is for a lot of people to be playing these lightning type decks, whether it's Luxray or Magnezone or Ampharos. I think that there's a lot of strong lightning Pokemon. Magnezone is very unique, and we're going to talk about that right now, really. And I think that the thing with Magnezone is that, again, with Chingling, with Oricorio, we can slow the game down. We can basically, buy us some time to get that Magnezone built up. And, similarly to Silvally, but a little bit different, is that Magnezone is still 2-hit KOing most Pokemon in the game. That includes Mega Pokemon, and that's very, very relevant. Keep in mind, 140 HP plus Giant Cape allows us to live attacks from basically any Mega Pokemon. Altaria is the big one right now, doing 130 damage on the top end, and Magnezone is living in attack. So it's a single prize Pokemon that can tank a hit from a Mega Pokemon and hit for 110 damage, effectively being really, really strong as a single prize Pokemon. I really, really like Magnezone right now, and I think that it has the potential similarly to Meowscarada. However, it's a little bit different than Meowscarada, just because I don't really love Meowscarada into a lot of the other non-EX archetypes in the meta right now. But Meowscarada is still very, very good. But I think that Magnezone, since you can pair it with Oricorio, has definitely a little bit more of an advantage. So there is a grass type deck in this video. It's not Meowscarada, but yes, Magnezone, phenomenal right now. I just never really thought of it, but it's back, and I think it's a card that actually is really strong into this heavy Mega Evolution Pokemon, heavy Oricorio metagame. Not only that, but, Suicune Greninja is everywhere, and Magnezone can 1-hit KO a Greninja, which is awesome. So really, really great. I'm really happy that Magnezone has kind of peaked its head back up. And again, we can benefit from double Copycat. Think about how strong Copycat is in Magnezone now that we can search for those Magnetons maybe on our second turn and more consistently get that Volt Charge out early in the game, right? So Copycat making a lot of these multi-evolution decks just really, really strong, kind of buffing them to a pretty significant degree. Everything that I've mentioned right now about Magnezone, I think will continue to be true. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Magnezone himself ended up just being a really consistent player in the metagame for the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's just a really well-positioned card. I mean, Magnezone's always been strong, but I think especially right now where you're not seeing a lot of super heavy hitting damage, it really just kind of comes down to these Pokemon with like big HP. So the breakpoints all kind of fit in place for Magnezone. And again, you have Oricorio. Chingling is interesting. There's not that many rare candy Pokemon that are seeing play. Like Suicune plays rare candy Greninja, and I guess Blaziken and Ampharos are still seeing a bit of play, but Chingling definitely a little bit more of a niche Pokemon, but is a much better leadoff Pokemon than Magnemite is, right? And since we're playing all single prize Pokemon, it really doesn't matter if we're, playing a baby Pokemon or not. It doesn't, if our opponent goes through a Chingling and an Oricorio, Magnezone might be able to sweep the game, or if we go Chingling and then double Magnezone, like we're chilling, right? So that's the whole idea here, and Oricorio is going to win you games in certain matchups as well. So really strong deck here. Pokemon Center Lady, double Giant Cape, red card as well. Just kind of a tanky, bulky, Magnezone Oricorio list. So definitely one of my favorites right now. Did really well at a recent tournament. I mean, are you surprised by Magnezone? Is this the first time you're hearing about Magnezone this season? It's good, trust me. Definitely really quality. I'm curious to see how it performs this weekend. Next up is going to be Mega Ampharos. So this is basically the list that we talked about yesterday on the channel. I love Mega Ampharos right now. I think we found a really solid build for it. That's going to be with Pichu, with the Thunder Punch non-EX Ampharos, with Flaffy, and then of course Cleffa. Now the difference with this deck list is instead of playing May, they're actually just playing one Oricorio, which you know what? I'm not a big fan of because I don't love Oricorio as much in this sort of new meta with a lot of Suicune Greninjas running around, but you got to hedge your bets. Mega Ampharos is something that struggles with Blaziken, so it might benefit from playing Oricorio. But in general, I think that May in the deck is so good that the list I was playing had cut Oricorio and was just playing May for consistency, but everything else about the deck, basically the same. No copycat either. They're playing a Giant Cape. So there's a couple of things changed here. This list, again, I pulled from a recent online tournament with somebody that was doing very well. If you wanted to see my version of the deck, go check out yesterday's video. But Ampharos himself, really good. It's just a strong Pokemon. Uniquely very good this build is into Oricorio. I like the fact that Mega Ampharos can tank like 5 hits from Oricorio with Lily, and then just kind of do bench damage and then use Cyrus to either take KOs or bring up a Pokemon to KO on the bench that's not Oricorio. So Ampharos uniquely can just deal with Oricorio better than other EX Pokemon in the game. And then we have Thunder Punch Ampharos, which again will just be one-hit KOing Oricorios really easily. But the upside to Ampharos is that it's actually, this is the non-EX Ampharos, it's just a broken Pokemon. Like, this card is crazy. With Pichu, 2 energies, like you can attack on your second turn going first with this thing if you can rare candy into it. Thunder Punch, only 2 energies, does 80 damage, but if you flip heads, it does 120. So we have 150 HP Pokemon doing 120 damage for 2 lightning energies. Like, that's crazy. So even not against Oricorio, it's sometimes just worth using this Ampharos because it technically can deal more damage to the active Pokemon than Mega Ampharos can, which is really unique. So just a really strong deck list here. I've been playing it a ton. This is my favorite deck to play right now. Mega Ampharos is incredible, and I got like an 8-win streak with the Emblem event, and I knocked out all of my wins for that Emblem event like super quickly. I just really like the package here. I think that playing Mars in the deck is really smart. Effectively, you can kind of lead off with Pichu, get your energies ahead, and then like even if you don't have Ampharos, you can go into Cleffa, sacrifice the Cleffa, Twinkly Call, find your Ampharos, and then on turn 3, your opponent has 2 prizes, but then you have a full HP Mega Ampharos. You can Mars them to 1. We can heal up with Lily. It's just a really strong package for sure. And the other thing I really like about Ampharos is that it's just uniquely really good into Suicune as well. There's definitely games, like even if you lead Mareep, if you go second, you can just attach and attack, and then evolve, attach, attack, and then evolve, attach, attack, and you'll just win the game because they actually don't have enough damage. They just can't deal enough. Like Suicune can't do anything to getting attacked by a Mareep, and then a Flaffy, and then a Mega Ampharos, because it can attack on curve going second, and they have enough HP. If we're not benching any Pokemon, Suicune doesn't even KO a Flaffy, which is pretty crazy. So just really strong. I don't have anything else to say about Mega Ampharos. I will say I think it's probably the most disrespected Mega Pokemon so far, other than maybe Pinsir, but definitely not seeing nearly as much play as it should, and I think that makes sense. Again, early on in the metagame, a lot of Blaziken. Mega Ampharos doesn't love going up against Blaziken, especially the way that it was built previously, but I think that, if Blaziken dips down in play, which I think it will a little bit, I think Mega Ampharos has a lot more ability to win matchups against other popular decks in the game, like Suicune Greninja, like all of these Oricorio decks, Oricorio Absol, also like Altaria. Like Altaria is an interesting one, right? You might think that Altaria and Altaria with Indeedee definitely is tough because they can heal up and get above that 200 HP threshold, so you don't get two hit KO'd by Mega Ampharos. But the upside to playing Mega Ampharos in that matchup is that they oftentimes have, Indeedee on the bench, or, a Swablu on the bench, or, you know, a Jirachi or what is it, like a Chingling. So they have low HP Pokemon on the bench. We can kind of take free hit KOs, and then we can basically like gust up like the Indeedee and then KO that for game. That's a win condition here, but also keep in mind that Mega Ampharos has 210 HP. So with Lily, you have effectively 270 HP, which means that Mega Altaria can't 2-hit KO you if you have Lily, and that's a really big deal. This deck list here is playing Giant Cape to further extend those odds. So I do like Giant Cape against Altaria specifically, but I don't think it's necessarily that needed in other matchups. But I love Ampharos. I made an entire video about it yesterday. I would highly recommend it. I'm very curious to see how many people play it this weekend and how well it performs. So shout out to Mega Ampharos, my favorite Mega, my favorite deck right now in the current metagame. A ton of diversity, and it's really awesome. Next up, though, I gotta let you guys know that over 50% of you guys watching my videos over the last 28 days are not subscribed to the channel. So listen, subscribing is free. I'm not gonna beg you here, but consider hitting that subscribe button if you appreciate the content. If you've been watching the videos, definitely go ahead and consider it. It helps me out. It helps the community out. I would definitely appreciate it. And we're almost at 40,000 subscribers. So go ahead, smash that subscribe button. Next up is going to be Decidueye. Let's talk about Decidueye here because I think that, sorry, my turbo controller is vibrating right now because I have it automatically shiny hunting right now. If you know, you know. Decidueye EX is crazy. I don't know if we've really talked about it enough, but I think that Decidueye EX might be a top deck right now, like even top 3, top 4, top 5. The more I look at Decidueye EX, the more I realize that this is inherently broken right now in the current metagame. Decidueye EX with Leaf Cape literally is like a mega Pokemon, and we have access to Lily and Erika's to heal up. We have new additions to this deck list, like May, like Copycat, which make it so much more consistent. And just like Ampharos, we can play the non-EX Decidueye to just deal with Oricorio extremely easily. So this is a deck list that, to me, other than maybe some specific fire matchups, you know, like Blaziken that can 2-hit KO you, I think Decidueye does well and do basically everything else. It just beats everything. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Is this the discussion right now? Is this what people are talking about? Because I really think Decidueye is broken. I think it's absolutely incredible, right? Lily with Leaf Cape, 200 HP. You're effectively a mega Pokemon. You're living 2 hits from almost anything. We can snipe the bench to basically KO mega Pokemon that have like retreated after we attack them once. The only awkward thing with Decidueye is that it only does 180 in 2 attacks, right? If you have it damaged to your opponent previously with like a Rowlet or a Dartrix, which can be a little bit awkward for sure. So the math doesn't always line up, especially if they play Lily, but I think that Decidueye is incredibly strong because it's not a 3-prize Pokemon, it's a 2-prize Pokemon. So you have to go through double Decidueyes oftentimes if they can draw into it, and they oftentimes will with May, with Copycat. I love it. Decidueye historically has been really strong into Suicune and hasn't really struggled with Oricorio at all because of all of the healing and all of the sustain. So when you take a look at the active metagame right now, a lot of Lightning, a lot of Dark, a lot of Absol, which is weak to Grass, and a lot of Suicune Greninja, Decidueye is extremely well positioned. As long as you're not hitting like Blazikens and stuff, you're probably gonna be doing totally fine. I actually really like Decidueye into Altaria as well. So just a really, really strong card. This is, to me, like a top deck in the metagame. I would not be surprised if like Decidueye really kind of took over, which might be the key factor in letting Blaziken enter back into the metagame and be a really consistent top deck. I think we have a bunch of like triangulations going on, like building up in the metagame. We have a bunch of like rock, paper, scissors. I think there's like 3 or 4 different rock, paper, scissors cycles amongst different decks in the metagame right now, which to me tells me that things are really healthy and diverse. Now, you know, we'll have to see what the results are this weekend, but there are so many strong decks that all have really good positioning and have a lot of key factors that make them really strong in the metagame right now. So Decidueye is one of them. I mean, do not sleep on this deck. This deck is incredible. This might be the best Decidueye has ever been, and I mean that quite literally. Just an incredible deck. It's been buffed so dramatically just by like how things have developed in the metagame, but not only that, like Copycat and May are just such good consistency cards for Decidueye. It's incredible. I mean, this deck is crazy. Anyway, shout out to Decidueye. Next up, though, let's talk about Altaria, because to me, I think that Altaria probably is, in most people's minds at least, still the top dog. It's the reigning champion of, you know, Mega Rising. It did win the first tournament, the 750-player tournament that we had last weekend. Will it win again? That's the big question. I think that the Altaria decks have changed on my tier list. I told you on Tuesday that Indeedee would be sort of the new partner for Altaria, just the way that the metagame was changing. I think Chingling's really strong, but, you know, most decks aren't really playing Rare Candy. Like, it was specifically really good for Blaziken. But you know, now we have to worry about some other stuff, and I think that Indeedee's healing, to be honest, is probably a little bit more of a key factor and a little bit more useful. And this is just just one example of an Altaria deck, but there's so many different ways to build Altaria. To be honest with you, you could do it so many different ways, right? You could play Indeedee, you could play Chingling, you could play Jirachi, I've seen Tapu Lele, I've seen Sylveon. There's a lot of different Pokemon we can pair with Mega Altaria, and I think that they're all really good. So I think the inherent strength of Mega Altaria is the flexibility, that this is a low impact Pokemon. It only requires the 4 cards in our deck list and 2 energies to set this thing up, so that we can basically play it in so many different ways. We can be flexible with it, and it can be inherently really strong into any metagame based around all of the different options that we have to pair around with it. So this deck list is playing Indeedee and playing Jirachi, but you could play Giratina with Indeedee, you could just play Chingling Jirachi, you could play Indeedee and Chingling. Like, there's all of these different combos, so it's really up to you to determine which you think is best given the current metagame scenario right now. But I do think that Indeedee is probably the most valuable partner right now for Mega Altaria, just because that extra healing is so useful in so many different matchups. So yeah, I don't have much else to say about Altaria. I think it'll continue to be really strong. The 130 damage that it can do with a full bench is just effectively the same as like 140 with Blaziken. You're 2-hit KOing mostly anything in the game, and you're 1-hit KOing a lot of stuff as well. You can finish off KOs with Jirachi. We are also playing double Cyrus, so nothing is safe from this deck really at all. And then we have the Do the Wave Altaria, which can 1-hit KO Oricorio. So that's really the build of the deck here. Rocky Helmet also boosts the damage, and I do like Rocky Helmet a lot with Mega Altaria because it effectively is 150 damage per turn instead of 130 with that Rocky Helmet damage, right? And since Mega Pokemon are living hits, that it just makes sense to play Mega Altaria with Rocky Helmet to boost the damage, and then Indeedee to heal back up some of that HP. It's just a broken card. This deck list might be the top dog right now. I don't think it's inherently the strongest deck in the game, but I think that at any point in time it could be. So that's the cool thing about Altaria. Definitely one of the best decks right now. Of course it was going to make the list. Here's just one example of Mega Altaria that I would maybe suggest playing right now. Next up, let's talk about Mega Absol, because I think that Mega Absol is a little bit on the decline, but not for the reasons you might think. I think that this is still a very well-positioned deck list. It's still placing very well in tournaments. It's still seeing a ton of play, still has a good win rate. I think that this is just a really sound, consistent, strong deck list. Now, the thing with Mega Absol is that there's just so many new decks entering the metagame that people are just moving off, right? There's nothing one in the game right now. There's no one deck that is really dominating the meta share, right? Maybe for like a day or two, but then things even out. So I think that Mega Absol kind of is just one of those top 3, top 4 most played decks, and I think that it's going to operate right there. It could pop off and win a tournament at any given time. I think that Oricorio just kind of is the perfect partner for Absol. It slows the game down, allows you to kind of set up Absol, deal some chip damage before you go into Absol, and then you can kind of maneuver through the game from there. Like, Absol's not a very good Pokemon, but if you can get it set up without really your opponent being able to do much for 2 or 3 turns, yeah, it's really good. You know what I mean? It's just inherently strong. So, we have Giant Cape, we have PCL, we have Potion, keeping Oricorio alive, keeping Absol alive, extra damage from the Darkrai pings, and of course, any additional chip damage that Oricorio might provide, even red as well. So this deck has a little bit of everything, double Cyrus, 1 Sabrina. The effect for Absol is strong, and I think the inherent downside to Absol is that it does 80 damage, which is quite frankly really bad. In fact, it will actually lose you a number of games. Just like when Absol loses games, it's because it doesn't do enough damage. Like, that's the inherent downside to it. So you are a little bit reliant on things like Oricorio or Darkrai or Red to really kind of get you over the hump, which it doesn't always have the ability to do. But this is still a top deck. It was the first deck I made a video on last week, and it ended up making it, I think, to the finals, losing to Altaria in last weekend's tournament. I made a video on this originally because everyone I knew was going to be playing Blaziken. So I was like, you know what? Here's the deck that beats Blaziken. Good luck, have fun, and enjoy beating people with Oricorio. And I think that as time goes on, Oricorio will be a little bit less and less valuable, but I think this season in particular, it will continue to be a top dog. It'll be a very distinct factor in the metagame, which in my mind is healthy for the game, because the last season and the season before, like, that metagame that we had for Secluded Springs was not very healthy, and to me that was because Oricorio wasn't prevalent. So anything with Oricorio right now I would still suggest, and this is kind of probably going to be the most played version of an Oricorio deck, and I think the Mega Absol pairs very well with it. Next up, though, let's talk about what I believe is actually just the best deck in the game still, and that is basically buffed Greninja Oricorio, or not Greninja Oricorio, buffed Suicune Greninja. Yeah, I mean, it's just Suicune Greninja, but better now. Wow, like, who would have thought? We can effectively, this person's playing one of each Froakie here. I don't really know why, because this deck plays only water energies, but just played 2 of the new Froakie because it does 20 damage instead of 10. It's literally, so Froakie's better now, which is like, okay, cool. But then we get Greninja EX, which is like sometimes better. It's like sometimes actually more worth it to play Greninja EX in your deck than to play the Water Shuriken Greninja. But to be fair, we're drawing so many cards. Suicune is sort of the main attacker option here, that we can actually have Greninja EX and a Water Shuriken Greninja kind of broken. The shifting shifting stream ability for Greninja EX is effectively like Celesteela. Like, it's like you're playing Celesteela Ultra Beast with Suicune Greninja. Like, who thought that was a good idea? But as an attacking option, Greninja EX is actually really strong with 170 HP. With Giant Cape, it goes to 190, and then we have Irida in the deck. So there are some games where you would rather go Suicune EX into Greninja EX because that 100 damage is going to be a little bit more consistent, but we need to live in attack, and that's something that Greninja EX can do. A lot of people have asked me, should I be playing Giratina still? I don't really know. I've seen some versions of people not playing Giratina. I just don't know if anybody's really been super confident enough to cut Giratina from the deck. And you have to keep in mind that, you know, going first with Suicune still isn't the most advantageous thing in the world. So Giratina is a little bit of a buffer to that. If we can get Giratina on the bench, then, you know, we can Broken Space Bellow and just have at least, you know, Giratina as a backup attacking option later in the game. So I still think it's kind of worth it for that reason. It also works as like a free pivot, 170 HP basic Pokemon hitting for 130 with Giant Cape. It is really strong. It's still a strong Pokemon, and I think it probably still deserves to be in the place of Suicune Greninja. The cool thing about this deck list is that, you know, for a moment there, at least, it seemed like it was absolutely going to run away with things because it was strong into Blaziken because it was a water type, and because of Greninjas, you were strong into Oricorio. So it was kind of like, like, you know, we've kind of built the perfect scenario for Suicune to come back and dominate. And yes, it has been improved, but I think that what we've seen recently, Altaria keeping it in check, you know, Ampharos keeping it in check, and I think that some of those Magnezone decks, Decidueye decks, like various different things in the metagame that are seeing play are still strong into Greninja and Suicune. So I think that it's not going to take over the metagame, even though I would still call this, you know, inherently the strongest deck in the game. I don't think it's going to be like a solo tier 0 type deck like it was last season. Hopefully, that's my hope, but that's also my assumption here. We'll see if that happens. I'm still a little bit afraid of a deck list like this because if it does win this weekend, it's going to have a lot of momentum. A lot of people are going to play it, and it might kind of continue on to just end up being a tier 0 deck because things tend to snowball, right? That's why Altaria is seeing so much play this week, is because it won last weekend, but it's not necessarily like I think a super tier 0 deck, whereas, you know, if everybody starts playing Suicune and Greninja, we could kind of go over that cliff edge a little quickly and you know, we could be in kind of rough territory. So I'm still hoping this deck doesn't win this weekend, but it definitely has as good of a chance as any. In fact, this deck, I believe, was top 4 last weekend as well. So incredibly strong. We had to mention it. I mean, do you really still want to play Suicune Greninja? I don't know. Why did they buff the deck? I also don't know. I think May's broken, and I think Greninja EX is broken. I think they gave us a new Froakie as well. It's like, come on now. Like, did we really need all of these different improvements to Suicune and Greninja? Did we, though? Who knows? Mega Ampharos, though. Playing Mega Ampharos absolutely stomps this deck. All right. Lastly, just in the normal fashion here of our best decks for ranked videos that we do on Friday, we will be doing our weekly wildcard. This is my favorite part of these videos. A lot of people's favorite parts of these videos, by the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The weekly wildcard for today's video, for this week, is going to be one of the more interesting decks that I've ever seen. So in about 180 player tournament a couple of days ago, one player by the name of something that I literally forget, and I apologize, his username or his tag, but he was playing, and he's in the Discord, by the way, shout out to him, he'll know. Comment down below if you're watching this video. He was playing Goodra. He was playing Goodra with Indeedee, Heavy Helmet, Lily. This deck list is not a meme, okay? I can't describe to you how much this deck is absolutely insane. I was live a couple of nights ago on YouTube on the live stream playing like viewer battles, and then I was like, I'm gonna build something different. So I went on Limitless, went to the most recent tournament, and I saw that this Goodra deck was like 6-0, and I was like, what? What are we doing? Like, why is Goodra 6-0? I pulled this up. I was like, oh, I get it. You know, tons of healing, a bunch of sustain, pretty funny. And then I played it. And then I realized that this deck actually has a lot going for it that is actually broken in the metagame right now. So let's break it down. So Goomy, let's talk about Goomy, because Goomy has the sticky membrane ability, which means that as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, attacks used by your opponent's active Pokemon cost 1 more colorless energy. And yes, this does work for baby Pokemon, which means that if Goomy's in the active spot, your opponent literally can't do anything for a couple of turns. And a lot of decks right now are reliant on that 1 to 2 energy attack cost. Things like Altaria can attack you unless they have 3 energy. So if we're going second, if our opponent is going first, and we have Goomy in the active spot, we basically get 2 or 3 free turns where our opponent can't do anything. This allows us to set up a second Goomy potentially on the bench, or just sort of build up energies and then evolve into Goodra in the active spot. I know that it's dual energies, water and psychic, is a little bit tough here. That's the only downside to this deck, is the dual energies. But if we do get Goodra online, it basically, Goodra has 150 HP. It's a single prize Pokemon, by the way, and does 100 damage, but you heal 40 damage from this Pokemon. Now, we've seen attacks like this before, and this doesn't seem like that strong of an attack, but trust me, trust me, it's broken because we're playing double Indeedee, which heal 20 damage every turn. Okay, so 20 plus 20 plus 40, all of a sudden we're at 80 damage healing plus heavy helmet, which reduces the damage we take by 20, which means that's effectively a minus 100 damage every turn, 150 HP Pokemon, and we're playing 2 copies of Lily to heal 60. So this Pokemon can never die. If you're not hitting for like big damage on Goodra, like if we don't have like a real heavy hitter, then we're literally not doing anything to Goodra. It's actually insane. This deck list can basically survive forever and just punch you for 100 damage, 100 damage, 100 damage. And effectively, you just can't get around Goodra because it's so tanky. It does so much healing. So, and what we see in the format right now is really no Pokemon are dealing that much damage. Like it's all like, 120 to like 150 HP or damaging attacks, right? So like with Heavy Helmet, like nothing's one at KOing Goodra, which means any amount of damage that it takes just kind of gets healed back up by the combo of Spiral Drain, Watch Over, and Lily. And it's kind of hilarious. So Goodra can kind of auto-win a bunch of matchups in the metagame right now. It is a bit of a setup deck, but it's a little bit more consistent than you might think, and you have way more time than you might think because of Goomy. Broken card here, just an absolutely broken card. 1x speed is here in case I guess we lead with Indeedee, but we are playing, Cyrus, Red, Copycat, Research, Double Pokeball, Double Rare Candy. A way better deck than you might think. 1 Sliggoo as well, so which can deal 60 damage, right? So you can evolve into Sliggoo and then KO a basic. Like, this deck is crazy, guys. This is a legitimate deck list here. It is the wild card for the week because it just did pop up like yesterday, but has been doing really well since. One of the more unique decks that I've ever seen. I slept on Goodra. I just didn't really realize. I was like, well, Goodra and Lily and Indeedee, like it all kind of adds up, and the Heavy Helmet tech is broken. It really is, because we have a retreat cost of 3. So yeah, man, I mean, this is a super fun deck. Shout out to, again, I'm sorry I forget the username of the player here, but one particular player, and he's in the Discord as well, played this at a tournament and absolutely dominated with it, and ever since I've absolutely loved the deck list, and I would definitely recommend it. And I think it's like the perfect wild card this week. I think it is the perfect wild card. Shout out to Goodra. I think that every deck we talked about in this video is going to be phenomenal picks, both for the Emblem event and any online tournaments you might be playing. And I know we don't have ranked mode right now. In fact, we have 20 days until ranked mode, which is crazy. But we'll continue to go live. We'll do some viewer battles, and we'll just have fun. And we're running the tournament series as well, which can be sort of your competitive crutch. If you're kind of missing ranked mode, I would highly recommend that you participate in online tournaments. Even if it's not our community online tournament, I would definitely recommend that you play. We're moving the meta forward. We have all of the data. We know what the best decks are because we have all of the collective sort of resources and data that we get from the tournament results, which is, again, the most defining factors when it comes to developing the metagame. So that's still happening, which is definitely really fun. So even if you're not participating in the tournaments, it's still fun to stay tuned and know which decks are the best. However, hopefully ranked comes back. It should come back on the 27th, so I'm definitely waiting for that for sure. But anyway, guys, these are the best decks right now in Pokemon Pocket. Again, for the Emblem event, for the eventual ranked, I guess, in a couple of weeks, which the meta will change by then, but online tournaments as well. So, or casual battle. These are the best casual battle decks. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it, these are the best decks in Pokemon Pocket right now. These are the decks that I would recommend, but things are changing so quickly. I mean, even from like last week when the set came out and we were making early deck videos, the meta has changed very, very much. Extremely diverse, very, very healthy meta, super, super fun. I wish we had ranked because it would be definitely one of the most fun ranked seasons, but hopefully, on the 27th when ranked comes out, we're still kind of in this much of a diverse metagame, you know what I mean? So anyway, guys, there's the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to go and register for Pocket Man's Pocket Tournament number 7, sponsored by Box.gg. Going to be a whole lot of fun. Link down in the description below to go and register. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your guys' support. Yeah, I mean, come on now. Super fun. I love Pokemon Pocket right now. It's a whole lot of fun. All right, there we go. Let's end the video, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. Bye.